The whole rings of fire is waking up from its slumber, and a fissure has opened up near the supervolcano Yellowstone, which could kill millions of people if it ever erupted. And a week ago, thick smoke and bright red flames has been spotted in the area of Yellowstone National Park. This is JT at X Science, and I have just told you the breaking news of today. Thick smoke and red flame in Yellowstone National Park. Nonetheless, don't be too worried, at least yet, because these fiery signs are from a wildfire, not from the supervolcano. This monstrous fire has been burning for a while, and it was sparked by a lightning. It has burned down more than 400 acres of land, 20 of which were part of the Yellowstone National Park. This wildfire is called Bacon Rind, so named because it mainly affected the Bacon Rind tree area, which border the forest cluster Gallatin and the national park. It can be seen clearly from major roads, such as the Highway 191, but Forest Service claimed that it was not dangerous to the traffic, yet drivers were advised to pay extra caution when driving on Highway 191. Two crews of 20 men each and 3 helicopters were deployed to douse the flame. However, because of the hazardous condition on the ground, these brave firefighters were kept above it. They also stated that if the flame approaches and threatens the areas of the highway, as well as any private or men's properties in the northbound region, they will as soon as possible find a chance to engage. So yeah, it's a relief for now that Yellowstone is not erupting, but like we have always said, it will, and it will soon. When the oceanic plate is pressed too much under the North American plate, it will either crumble or spring back, and either way, a lot of disruption will take place down there, pushing magma up. And the only one conclusion that we have always reached is a mega eruption that would devastate America. So watch out for any signs, guys. Don't forget to subscribe because there will be a lot of updates on Yellowstone coming soon. So until we meet again, stay safe and look to the sky. I'm JT at X Science. In the wake of Black Saturday, forest fires swept unchecked across the greater Yellowstone areas as firefighters mounted a massive effort. This is the beginning of the book Yellowstone on Fire, printed by the Building Gazette and written by staff members of the newspaper. The massive fire in Yellowstone National Park is the largest wildfire in the recorded history of the United States. Hello guys, I'm JT from X Science, and today we are bringing you another destructive disaster, the Yellowstone wildfire in 1988. The fires almost destroyed 2 major visitor destinations, and on September 8th of 1988, the entire park closed to all known emergency personnel for the first time in its history. Well, interesting enough. So, let's kick it off by looking at the background of the flames, in case you didn't hear about it. Starting as many smaller individual fires, the fires quickly grow out of control due to the drought conditions and increasing winds, combining into one large conflagration which burned for several months. This time, the weather was truly the firefighters' nemesis. Constant winds sent wildfires sprinting across the patched landscape, made it impossible for the armies and firefighters to stop the fires. You see, if several months is just too hard to visualize, I have an exact timeline for you. The fire started in June 14, 1988, and only the arrival of cool and moist weather in the late autumn brought the fires to an end in November 18th that year. It's a nightmare that won't end, one park survey employee said. A total of 793,880 acres, or 3,213 square kilometers, was affected by the wildfires, which was 3 times larger than the land areas of Hong Kong. Thousands of firefighters fought the fires, assisted by dozens of helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft, which were used for water and fire retardant drops. Firefighters from as far away as Hawaii and Florida were called to the Yellowstone High Country. At the peak of the effort, more than 9,000 firefighters were assigned to the park. Forest Service, rangers, manned helicopters and rode hard into the backcountry to evacuate people from the path of the approaching fire. With fire raging throughout the greater Yellowstone ecosystem and other areas in the western United States, the staffing levels of the National Park Service and other land management agencies were inadequate for the situations. More than 4,000 United States military personnel were soon brought in to assist in the wildfire suppression efforts. With the troops moving to the battle lines and constant helicopter and airplane traffic, Yellowstone more closely resembled a war zone than the nation's premier national park. The authors, and also the witnesses of Yellowstone fire, claim the firefighting efforts cost over $120 million, which is $250 million in 2018. Losses to structures was minimized by concentrating firefighting effort near major disaster areas, keeping the property damage down to $3 million, 6 as of 2018. Fortunately, no firefighters died while fighting the Yellowstone fire. Have you imagined the horrible scene that? Hell on earth, someone might say, but let me show you more. The massive firefighting efforts seemed futile in the face of natural rage. The moisture level of some logs fell to 7%, nearly half that of kiln-dried lumber. Brushes, grasses, and twigs were measured at 3% and 5% moisture. At between 8% and 12% moisture, fires burned freely. Young vegetation burned with ease, something never before witnessed in the regions. Areas within Yellowstone created their own microclimates. On the rare still days, the fires created their own winds and expanded in all directions, sometimes breaking through the fine line that had held for weeks. Due to the wind, fire behavior then was so unprecedented that firefighting guidelines were rewritten. Even until the end of August of 1988, little effort was done to put a stop to the fire. Everything they could do was then to hold the line. Mother Nature is making the decisions here, one spokeswoman said. As September approaches, firefighters battle a new enemy, fate. Some troops were on the fire scenes for weeks, with little relief. Fireboss constantly preach safety as they screw face danger daily. Snapped, that a burnt tree that is still standing could fall quietly with no warning. Chainsaws and even sharp hunters pose danger to weary crews. At the end of August, no serious injury has been reported from the firefighting effort, despite the large build-up of fog. But there was hundreds of minor injuries and smoke-related illnesses. Breathing the smoke on the front lines was like smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day. The lack of success frustrated firefighters and their bosses. Residents of the regions also were wary of the fires and constant smoke. Despite massive firefighting effort, they maintained the perception that the park's let-it-burn policies were still in effect. Only a half-hearted effort was being made to extinguish the blaze, is what they thought. Angry residents directed their frustration directly at the Yellowstone Superintendent, Robert Babbitt. He has held controversial posts in the Park Service before, but this was the first time he has been subjected to such extensive personal attacks, including one West Yellowstone motel marquis who said, "Welcome to the barbecue." Some attacks came from people who operate tourism businesses and who wonder whether tourism would recover. Others reacted emotionally to the fire running rampant through the magnificent landscape that held some personal attachment. To quell sharp criticism, Top regional directors of the National Park Service and the U.S. Forest Service conducted a press conference during Labor Day weekends to explain the extreme fire conditions and the effort to stop the fire. Talking about media coverage, I have to mention about the press at the time. There was like a hungry wolf hunting for news about Yellowstone fire. The National Park Service received some 3,000 media requests, not all of which the two Park Public Information officers were able to grant, even with the assistance of the staff more than 40 employees. By the time the fires were under control in mid-November, the parks were still receiving 40 to 70 media requests daily. Media coverage of the fires brought the National Park Service more national attention than it has ever received, and the 1988 fire season has been called one of the most important events in the history of that agency. Fall was coming to the high country and with its moisture and cooler temperatures which slowed the fire. On September 17, fire commanders cautiously said that they had turned the corner of the Yellowstone fire. For the first time in 2 months, yes, the first time in 2 months, they can finally say that they had something under control. During the $120 million effort, firefighters dug more than 850 miles of fire line by hand. Some 600 miles of that was around the North Fork fire. Bulldozers scrapped an additional 137 miles of fire line, including 32 miles in Yellowstone. More than 1.4 million gallons of retardant was dropped from aerial tankers, and helicopters dropped an estimated 10 million gallons of water. More than 18,000 hours of aircraft time was lost over the park. So, what can we learn from this disaster? The most important lesson learned is that a number of ecosystems, including the one that contains Yellowstone, are specially adapted to large and intense wildfire. Learn this lesson with sweat and blood. A new fire management plan for Yellowstone was implemented in 1992. The plans observed stricter guidelines for managing natural fire, increased the staffing levels of fire monitors and related occupations, and allocated greater funding for fire management. And we can all believe that it had worked. After 1992, no massive destructive fires occurred in the Yellowstone, and the Yellowstone National Park soon returned to acting as the biggest park in the United States. Thank God, the 1988 fires didn't turn it into the biggest park of the United States. So that's all for today. As usual, thank you for spending time with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support our good work. It means a lot to me and the whole crew. Goodbye, and see you soon in the next video of X-High.